I'm George. I'm a history teacher and also an English teacher from Brazil. And before I start, I would like to send my love and peace to all our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. They've been going through a lot. So if you're watching this, please make sure that you leave a donation to help them out. So here we go, guys. We'll be talking about learning foreign languages and how that fosters peace. As I said, I'm also a history teacher, so I would like to start discussing language from the perspective of culture and how it's a part of the way we express ourselves and how we capture the world around us and how we can use it as a very, very powerful tool for peace building. All right? So I would like to start with Mr. Ludwig Wittgenstein. Oh my God, my tongue just got stuck. Let's try that again. Ludwig Wittgenstein, here we go. He says, if we spoke a different language, we would perceive a somewhat different world. I think what he really means here is some of the idioms and the expressions we use, like the rhythm and the melody of a language, are very, very culturally specific, right? There are some things, of course, that I feel are like common, like facial expressions and so on, but the way we perceive a culture is very much connected to the language that we speak in that given culture. So that's what I mean when I say language as being some part of a global culture or a global framework for understanding a civilization. So moving on, so I'm showing now my history teacher side. This very cool quote from Charlemagne, and he says, to have another language is to possess a second soul. So this is a very, very powerful quote, especially if you are multilingual. I've had students come up to me and actually say like, oh my God, teacher, you sound so different when you're speaking English or Portuguese. It has to do a lot with how we express ourselves. And if you take it to a limit, I guess it also changes a little bit when it comes, for example, to personality, to the way you build sentences, to rhythm, intonation, and so on. And the best example here is how sometimes we have words that don't exist in one of the languages you speak, but they exist on the other. And then you gotta get like a little stuck with what you're trying to say because you're lost for words. So it's like the idea of persona, you know, of having this other side of you and having like true souls coexisting together and how we should be very, very aware of that. So moving on, when those souls clash or when those personalities clash, you become this very interesting thing, this idea of otherness. So you become this hybrid, right? And according to Mr. Conclini, the hybrid tends to be more than the sum of the parts. So the idea here being that the hybrid is made out of new structures, new objects, and new practices. So when you start putting those languages, start putting those personalities together, you arrive at something very, very interesting. And this is the core idea here. So let me just go back to my history classroom for just a simple moment, because there's some insight here I would like to share. The thing is, if you take a look, for example, this picture, right? This is like ancient Egypt. So if you take a look at this, it makes you wonder why people would be happy to be buried with the pharaohs. If you look at Rome, you're going to see that slaves had like the scholars, not with their names, but with the names of their owners. That means kind of like we have modern pets nowadays, you know, you have the name of the pet, maybe then it's your name, your telephone in case it gets lost. So it's this idea of space and time, or to put it simply, about how far away like a medieval princess would be from a traditional Disney princess or a princess from a movie. It's like romanticized. So when you start explaining those things to your students, it's this look of shock, this bewilderment that led me to see like how far we are apart. And then coming back to your English classroom, so you would be going over like grammar and vocab and listening and whatever, but it's like when students start to realize and to suggest like bridges being built between their native language and whatever language you're teaching, then you have something very powerful there, because you start comparing like idiomatic expressions and you try to find equivalents. And what are some of the things that you need to be in one language or the other in order to like best express yourself? So that made me realize something, putting those two things together, which is language, space and time, and cultural differences. They're tools. They're reflection tools that we as teachers should employ to the best of our abilities to foster high-order thinking skills. So to foster this reflection about analyzing, comparing, contrasting, like evaluating, justifying, supporting, arguing for or against something. And okay, so we really should focus on building the heart and fostering the heart. But then we have a question, which is why, right? So why is reflection necessary? Well, I get the feeling that, like, given the current state of things in many, many places throughout the world, what we really, really have to do is build peace. And peace, in my mind's eye, can only be achieved through communication. So peace is all about listening. It's all about the idea of otherness. It's about like putting yourself in someone else's shoes so you can really witness how their culture operates. And once that happens, this idea of otherness has a very interesting side effect. Something very powerful happens, which is you put your own culture in check, and it helps you like dispel misconceptions about other societies. So we achieve this otherness through language. It's like you let your thoughts, your ideas, your perceptions about your life and about your student life, they become like intertwined with these other societies, these other cultures, and so on. So it really helps you work towards peace and tolerance. So the big thing here, and I would like to give a shout out to one of my favorite musicians ever, which is Mr. Neil Peart, drummer for the rock band Rush. They have this song from the 80s called Territories 1985. He says, and this is another powerful quote too, he says, "Better the pride that resides in being a citizen of the world than the pride that divides when a colorful rank is unfurled." I think that needs like no explanation and no detail, right? So how much we should be aware of that and leaving our own misconceptions and biases and so on behind us and reaching out to other cultures, other peoples through the idea of language and tolerance and otherness. And I think that's the best thing we can do as teachers, because as time has passed, I have realized, okay, you have to teach your 4 skills, like listening, speaking, reading, writing. Okay, you have to teach grammar, vocab, listen, whatever. But the point is, we as teachers are a powerful force to do something else. And that is to build peace, to build otherness, and to foster and to bring about these reflections. And I feel that this can only be done through language. All right? So basically, that's it. That's basically all I had to say. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for following us around. And please, once again, if you have the opportunity, if you have the funds to do so, don't forget to donate for brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. Those guys have been through a lot lately, And I think that as an international community, we should really do our best to support it. All right? Thank you very much. I'll see you guys around.